All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome back. For those of you who are watching, thank you for watching this next installation of the Meet the Maker interview series for the upcoming Bristol and Bloom Appalachian Regional Art Festival that's happening on Saturday, August 8th at Cumberland Square Park in downtown Bristol. My name is Marcy, for those of you I don't know, and today I've got Kandee Wallace. So Kandee, thank you so much for joining me for this call today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So can you just tell us a little bit about, for those of you that, or for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're making?
Yeah, so obviously my name's Kandee Wallace. I'm a 26-year-old artist, and I grew up in the Southwest Virginia area, Russell County specifically. Grew up mostly in Dayton, went to Castlewood High School, and of course have been in the Bristol area because that's the only place that we can get groceries, really. But for the most part, I do a lot of ink illustrations as well as acrylic paintings. But as far as traditional art goes, there's not really anything that I don't do and that I don't like to do. So,
Yeah, so I'm looking at the painting that's behind you right now, and that looks amazing. I love it.
oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this is an acrylic piece, and it's just of a deep sea diver. I did it several years ago, and it's one of my favorites too.
Yes, it's so cool. So as far as how did you get started painting? Like, have you always been a painter, or is it something that you've recently picked up? Did you go to school for it?
As far as painting goes, I didn't actually do my first painting until I was a senior in high school, and God knows it wasn't very good. But I had been drawing since I was 3 years old. My grandfather kind of got me into that. He's an artist and he's amazing, and of course, I wanted to be like my granddad. So that's where I started jumping into the art scene. And throughout high school, I would give up like dual enrollment college courses and specifically plan my classes so that I could fit art into my schedule. And I was kind of a maniac, and I had no intention of pursuing a career in art or pursuing a degree in art. I was actually going to go into biochemistry, got accepted into a program, and a couple weeks before I was supposed to go to school, I completely changed my mind and decided I want to go to a completely different school and pursue fine art. So um, my degree is in fine art, and then I have a business administration and education background as well, and I kind of do this on the side to make money on top of my other job.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm just going to share my screen with everybody, so they can get a look at some of the stuff that you're making. Um, so here I've got your Instagram pulled up, and I love these illustrations that you've been doing here. Um, so is this just ink, pen and
Yeah,
ink? Or?
yeah, it's micron pins.
Yes. I love the lines. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Yes, you're welcome. And this, you've got had an exhibit at Blackbird also. That's really awesome.
Yeah,
Um, so otherwise, what would you say? This is so cute. Is this your partner here?
yeah. His name is Mikey. We've been together for a couple years now.
I love this. So
Thank
he's a Gemini, is that right?
you. Yeah.
And what, I don't know this constellation. I can't remember what it is.
It's Aries. It's like the lamest constellation ever. Like a stick.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, this is really cool. I love this little dog too. But these
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And these paintings, the things that you come up with are so cool. This actually makes me think of like a Hindu god or something.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea about it. I'm super interested in seeing space, and you'll see that that's a recurring theme in a lot of my work. But in my personal life, I do a lot of yoga and gymnastics, cheerleading and stretching and things like that. And that was kind of a play on that background as well.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I love this too. This is beautiful. I mean, you're doing some really, really beautiful things, and really funny too. Like they've all got this sense of humor to them. That's really funny. Like he's just chilling with the corona out on the moon.
Do
That's,
feel like my personality and my sense of humor do come into my artwork quite a bit, especially with my later stuff as I grow as an artist and kind of figure out my style and who I am as a person. So
yeah, yeah. So, and this is the painting that's behind you. That's I love
yeah,
so much too. Yeah, that's super cool. So, what otherwise, I know you've already said that space is a recurring theme for you. What is it about space that inspires your work and that you like?
I have been such a just like space nerd since I was a little kid. I remember being in like third or fourth grade, and one of my favorite Christmas presents that I got was like, the beginner of what would later be a tablet, and you press a button and it would tell you all these different facts about all these different planets, the temperature there, what the climate was like, things of that nature. I had like a solar system mobile over my bed that all of the planets evolved around the sun when you turned it on. So it's kind of been one of those things that I've really loved and been interested in since I was a kid. I'll walk outside at night, like when I'm coming home from work or something, and about trip over myself going to my house because uh, it's probably really annoying to most people, but it's just something that really captivates me. I love things that kind of humble me and make me feel small. And what can make you feel smaller than that?
Right, for sure. And I think too, just the nature of art and creating is very childlike in that way also, in that that childlike fascination. So what you were describing, you know, being a child and like having this fixation on space and this fascination with space, and that just admiration for it and general interest and curiosity about it. Like art is very much that in that same sort of spirit, I guess. So when it comes to creating, we channel a lot of those same childlike qualities of just being curious and exploring things and playing with things and getting messy, like all of those things that you do when you're a kid that you don't necessarily get to do when you're an adult. Or not that you don't, but you're discouraged from.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's really neat that, this childlike fascination has like carried on into your art as well, and it seems like they would very much go hand in hand, knowing that story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So otherwise, so you actually have a degree in art. Where did you study? Where did you go to school for art?
I went to UVA Wise.
Cool. So what would you say, what did you gain the most from your art education experience?
Oh my gosh, like I can't honestly put it into good enough terms what I got from furthering my education in art. For the most part, other than like my grandpa working with me on stuff, and by no means was he a professional artist or anything, I was self taught up until high school, in which my art teacher there, of course, taught me the basics and things like that my first year. But after that, it was just kind of free range, like do what you want, explore on your own, and learn your own process. But once I got into college, I could see that the quality of my work skyrocketed exponentially. I just learned so much more about like color mixing, for example, because that's something that's really important in my work is like those deep, vivid colors. And I learned so much more about that I hadn't in high school because I was teaching myself to paint. And now I'm being trained by professionals who have done this their entire life. So they're bestowing all this wisdom on me, and they're bestowing wisdom from their teachers and different like workshops and things that they've been to. So like just my knowledge of the subject itself grew exponentially. So I was able to apply that in my practice. And I think it was a great investment for me because it really helped me grow my craft and something that I love in such a positive and amazing way that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. So what about your creative process? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, are you making art daily, or do you, just have to like catch it at those right moments of creative inspiration? Or what is your creative process like? What are you inspired by? Well, you said space, but what inspires you in the day to day? And then when does that come into play in your daily life?
Yeah, my creative process is honestly kind of sporadic, and I see that for me, it kind of comes in waves. Like, I will go a couple weeks where I'll create like a new piece every day, just cranking it out, and then I'll take a week or two off, and I'll just like get random ideas in my head and things like that, and I'll put them in my phone for things to paint. Like, I have a list that's probably a mile long of just these like crazy ideas that I've thought of driving to work or sitting at my desk or whatever. And I'll eventually just transfer this to canvas. But as of right now, I've got like 5 pieces that are in that like limbo stage, and then 10 or 15 that I want to start on, but I won't let myself until I finish something. So it's a crazy process for me.
Yeah, I totally get that. Especially what you're talking about with it coming in waves, and how you'll have like this huge burst of production where it's like weeks that you're producing things, and then it sort of tapers off after that. Like, I very much operate in cycles in that way, where I have a lot of output and a lot of production, and then afterwards it's like I learn so much in that period of time where I'm creating, and then afterwards I have to take a break just so I can sort of like integrate all the things that I learned and all the lessons that I got from whatever process or series that I might have been working on. And then it's like this period where like inspiration is coming, but I'm not quite ready to make something. And so
Yeah.
yeah, like, because I'm still like in recovery anyway. And so it takes a while for that to build back up before I'm finally ready to like start something again. But then it's a lot like you said, where in that in between time where it's like I'm taking a break, and before I start the next thing, there's so many ideas, and it can be so challenging to like, because they'll be so different, and sometimes it's hard to know like which direction to go, because otherwise you're just like all over the place.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with that. And I'm glad that you can too, because it's easy to get discouraged as an artist. Like, myself personally, I'll look at like my other artist friends, and it feels like they're always producing, they're always putting something new into the world, and they're always growing and getting better. But I just don't feel like you can just constantly be doing the same thing and like cranking things out. I feel like you need those rest periods, and you need to produce as you feel like producing, because I've seen with myself especially, and if I like force myself to produce work, it's usually lackluster. It's not ever a piece that I just am in love with. So I just kind of feel it out by my mood in the day. And if I want to do it, I do it. And if I don't, it'll be there another day. I'm not so stressed about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I've also kind of been discussing with other artists, especially artists that are full-time artists. So like finding that balance of, um, it feeling like a job, and then still having like your creative passion that you love. And it's very much, you do have to tend to your own creative inspiration. And I think that's like been the common theme that I'm hearing from people, is that you really have to tend to those your own creative voice, especially like whatever sort of creative impulses come up for you, so making sure to follow those when they're there. But I think everybody's just got like a different cycle of operating. But I do very much agree for myself, especially I operate in rhythms. It's very cyclical. And I do have to take breaks. And in those breaks, I might still be making things, but they're more exploratory and experimental. They're not
Yeah.
really with the intention of like producing a finished product, I guess. Um, so aside from that, with your work, so I love the color that you use, and I'm just going to share my screen again. So I love the black and white pieces, and I love the lines that you use, but I also love the colors that you use, and what you were saying about color mixing and how that's important to learn. I think having the technical instruction that you're talking about is really valuable in helping to create like a a piece that sings, if that makes sense. That
Yeah.
has that balance and that harmony and that really works well together. But I'm curious, do you still take any classes or like study stuff online or do any workshops or anything like that?
I do a lot of research online in my free time, and also I just kind of talk to my artist friends and kind of ask them like, "Hey, how's your process going? Do you have any projects going on? Like, what's inspiring you?" Because I'm very much inspired by other people, like not so much a people person per se, but I do love to see other people do amazing things, and that makes me want to create amazing things of my own.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have like that creative community that, like you were saying, that you can sort of source inspiration from. And I think it's sort of this like what's cool about a creative community and artist community is that, art is such an individualized thing and it's so unique to you. And so like it's not like there's not I don't feel like there's as much need to compete with or compare necessarily to other people. I mean,
Yeah,
I still can compare myself to someone and just say like, wow, they're so skilled and my skills are not at that level. But I mean, in the sense of like, it's hard to compare your work to somebody else's though, because it's so individual. But
yeah,
you can still source so much inspiration from other people and still be inspired by their work. And so I think that's what's neat about having like an artist community. And like you said, just like having people in your life that you can draw that inspiration from.
yeah, for sure.
So otherwise with your work, say like I wanted to buy something. I've got your Etsy shop pulled up. So is that the primary place where people would go to buy something from you, or do people buy things from you through Instagram?
Honestly, Etsy is probably my least used seller platform. I'm not super active on there, and I know that I probably should be, but most of my orders come from Facebook or word of mouth, where people have heard uh, good things from other people who have ordered. So a lot of the time, I'll just get a random Facebook message that'll be like, "Hey, I really want this. So and so said that you could do it. Would you be interested?" And I usually go from there.
Yeah,
But my Etsy sales have been kind of picking up because I've been a little bit more focused on marketing that. So hopefully that can become a more prominent outlet too.
for sure. So otherwise, you said that this is more like your part-time job. Do you have any aspirations to make it into a full-time thing?
Um, that would be really amazing, but over the past couple of years, I've kind of struggled with what I want to do as an artist. I'm like a class away from having my teaching license so that I can teach in a K through 12 setting, and worked in an educational setting in the public schools and decided that that wasn't really for me. And then I kind of flirted with the idea of like maybe being an art professor because I'm still interested in that education aspect. But in all honesty, I feel like if I were to make art my full time job, I would just want to do, like the illustrating and painting aspect of it. Maybe as like an illustrator for children's books, that's been something that's kind of crossed my mind a few times. So I'm in a little bit of a limbo phase, and I don't really know where I want to be career-wise with art, but I do feel like maybe a little bit down the road that could be a full-time job for me.
Yeah, that's really cool and really exciting. I love the idea of you illustrating children's books too. I just, because of your sense of humor, I think that would be so cute. But otherwise, yeah, and I get to what you're saying, kind of being in that limbo place and not really sure sort of which direction to go. And I think, again, as an artist, because we're so creative, we can have so many ideas, and it can be really hard to like know which one to pursue and which one to follow through with. And for myself especially, I feel like I can run the risk of like spreading myself too thin and just having so many different things that I'm interested in and that I'm pursuing that I don't necessarily, like I said, follow through with one.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now. I have several hobbies, and I kind of want to like pour 100% of myself into all of those, but obviously like that's not possible. And at this point, I'm just kind of on a roll, and I don't want to give up any of my other hobbies to focus more.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, otherwise, one thing that I'm kind of asking everybody, and I wanted to ask you as well, is, do you identify as an Appalachian artist? And if so, what does that really mean? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I definitely, I would say that I identify as an Appalachian artist, and that's kind of been a long time coming because up until a couple of years ago, I wasn't really proud of my heritage and where I came from. As a matter of fact, I wanted as far away from it as possible. But the more I've kind of searched within myself and found love in my community and within my surroundings, the more I kind of identify with this area. Growing up, I felt kind of outcasted by this area, like I didn't have a place. And then I came to find out like you just have to kind of make your place. So um, for me, that's kind of grown into being an Appalachian artist would be having all of this support from my community, because without them, there's no way that I would be where I was as an artist a couple of years ago, and there's no way that I would be where I am now. So it's just like embracing that culture and embracing that heritage, embracing all of the things that are impacting you and influencing you, even when you may be reluctant to accept those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I so appreciate you sharing that because I felt much the same growing up. For myself, I never really identify or wanted to identify with this region when I was younger, and I too wanted to move away as soon as I could, and I did. And then once I was gone, I realized how much I loved this place, really.
Yeah,
And I, chose to come back, and it was really, yeah, it was a lot what you were describing, like finding that home, making it your home, and then having that community that's there to support you. And so, there are some really special people in this region that, make it worth staying for and make it worth committing to, and embracing. Um, so yeah, I just really appreciate you saying that.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So otherwise, do you have any other shows or events or anything else coming up where people can see your work in person? I
As of
know.
right now, I don't. I've entered a couple of different just like online competitions that have come across my feed. But as far as actively searching out shows in the area, there's just as you know, there's not really a lot to offer. I mean, a lot of the restaurants and galleries and things that do give a place for us artists are booked years out.
Mm-hmm.
When I took my show down at Blackbird at the end of January, she was like, "Hey, do you want to come back?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And she was like, "Okay, we're booked 2 years out. I'll put you on the calendar." So it's just like, it's really difficult to find somewhere to put your work that's not going to just like gouge you for all the money that you put into that piece. I'm just not one of those people that's going to put my work somewhere where they're going to take 50% of my profit because you didn't do 50% of that work. You're letting me hang my art. You don't get that.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying for, for Bristol. There's one of the reasons I started Bristol in Bloom in the event was just because there are so many artists in this region and there just aren't enough outlets to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, there really aren't.
Yeah, and there are so many artists too that people don't even know how many there really are. And when you're in a gallery, I think Bristol downtown State Street has one gallery. I mean, aside from Benjamin Wall's gallery, which is totally his,
Just him. Yeah.
right, there's one other gallery, a work of art gallery, and in that one store, there's like 150 artists.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's pretty astounding.
yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And then, of course, you've got like Blackbird and you've got Bloom who do their shows. But like I said, they're booked years out. It's really hard to get a spot, especially in the area. And as far as finding different places to put your art outside of the area, it's just so difficult to find any media for that. Like, people just aren't ever asking for art, really.
Yeah, and it can also be hard to travel to places and, to travel to each individual, to find places, travel to them, go by each place. And like, I don't necessarily have a portfolio of my work to take to places and show. I mean, I guess you could just, with your phone, just pull up your Instagram and show people.
Yeah.
Or, like whatever photos you have on your phone, but that can be challenging too. And so, and that's also, again, a reason that I wanted to start Bristol and Bloom is because so many artists from this region were taking their artwork elsewhere. They were either moving or they were showing their work in galleries, in other states. Just because, again, like our region hasn't been one where artists have really settled, and it's not really been one that has necessarily been art centric. So I'm really excited, especially with getting to talk to so many artists like yourself through these interviews and through the event, to be making so many connections and connecting with so many people, and to also see how receptive artists like yourself are to, sharing their work, sharing your inspiration and your stories and everything else. And again, the momentum behind the Bristol and Bloom event wouldn't be possible without that community and without you all saying yes and participating. And yeah, I'm just super grateful. I'm super grateful for you, again, being part of this interview and for saying yes to the event.
Yeah, I mean, like all of us, I haven't spoken to a lot of the other artists, but I can say that all of us are very thankful for this event too, because it gives a lot of opportunity for artists in the area. It just gives a lot of opportunity for growth for the subject of art itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's pretty awesome. And I know I'm looking forward to it. I would say everybody else is as well.
Yeah, thank you. Cool. Well, otherwise, I'm just going to share my screen one more time, just so people can see, again, all the amazing stuff that you're working on or have worked on, and get a sense of where they can connect with you. So you said like messages through Instagram or Facebook, that's a way people can reach out to you if they see a piece that interests them?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so here, just again, another look at Kandee's amazing paintings. I love this one. That's so pretty. Is that a mailbox?
It is a mailbox, yeah, and it's actually painted in different color tones on each side. On the opposite side, it's more of those warm colors, your reds and oranges, pinks, and things like that.
Yeah, super cool. That's so awesome. Um,
Thanks.
I love that you do stuff like that too. That's really neat. Cool. So this is your Instagram account. Facebook is also where people can connect with you. So do you do photography also?
I kind of dabble in photography. It's by no means one of my more like prominent mediums, but it is something that I kind of experiment around with.
Yeah, cool. And then this is also your Etsy shop. So there are things that are available for purchase right there that people can buy and order. I love the Nightmare Before Christmas jars that you've got.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, otherwise, Kandee, again, I just appreciate you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your journey, for sharing your work. Again, for saying yes to this event, for participating, for supporting it, and for participating in this interview with me, and for sharing your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Cool. And I will chat with you soon, okay?
Alrighty, thank you.